Good morning. I'm Jim Moore, and this is the program Justice for America. It is August 15th, and this is episode number 57. So glad to have you with us here this morning. This program is dedicated to discussing social issues, which include, governmental, political, cultural, what have you, with a biblical perspective. And I've been a preacher for 40 years, so that's always going to leak out. If you can't handle Christian perspective, then you probably ought to turn it off. But hope you don't. Hope you stay tuned and listen today. And we've got some important things to cover. Really, it's been a kind of a busy news week. I just want to let you know that we do this on Tuesdays pretty much only. Well, the rest of the days we do a program called Words of Encouragement. They're both done live on Facebook at 7 o'clock in the morning West Coast. It's about 9 o'clock my time here in Texas, and that would make it about 10 o'clock in the morning East Coast. So you can always find us by simply going to Facebook if you want to come on live, if you want to comment and say things. I try to acknowledge you and so on. I don't always get to do that for a variety of reasons, usually because I'm just busy commenting. But I'd love to have you on. Appreciate the fact you take the time to watch. Now, we do have, and there's my beloved, God bless, love you. Again, we have two Facebook channels, okay? Not trying to make it complicated, but we do broadcast live on one of them, but on the other one we give you a link to where you can watch live. So I have two Facebook channels, okay? And then we also have two YouTube channels. One is literally called by the name of the program, Words of Encouragement. And the other one is literally called by the name of the program, Justice for America. And so if you have not subscribed to both of those, I would encourage you to do that. And then you can hit the alert button. So when we do come on, or even later on in the day, it will come before your screen. Don't ever get the idea that stuff just randomly comes up. It doesn't. The algorithms bring up in front of you pretty much what you either watch all the time or what you subscribe to or so on. So do that. So we have 4 to 5 programs a week. Sometimes we don't get Friday because we get busy and have work to do and so on. So today we're going to talk about a number of things, actually a lot of things, but highlighting, number one, the fires in Hawaii. I'm not going to go super deep on that. The way we do this program is I give you links to go after. You say, Jim, I can find links myself. Yeah, you absolutely could. But for so many people, they don't want to spend tons and tons of time looking up this stuff to where their week is full of just a constant inflow of that. So we're here to kind of help in that regard so that you can look them up. So links, I put 3 or 4 out about Hawaii and what's going on there. You need to know what's going on there because it's not normal. Linda and I talked about this last night. My beloved wife of 40 years, who I adore. Just this idea, there are fires every year. I've got friends of mine that work in for Forest Service fire suppression and so on every year for as long as times began. There's always fires, but there are things that happen once in a while that really stand out, and they have a special and that's not to diminish. So if anybody's watching and go, hey, we have fires going on in our area too, please know that we love you and that we're praying for those things too. We can't mention every single thing that's going on in every single part of the world for sure. We just do the ones that the Lord highlights to us. So right now this is definitely significant, and they need our prayers. Okay, and we're going to talk about Mayor Adams of New York City and some of the things that are going down there as a kind of a prototype, I think, of the way the rest of the nation seems to be moving, and hopefully will change. And then I'm going to talk about a woman by the name of Baby Storme, who I just learned about. She's another artist for, I don't want to be mean, lack of a better term, a rap performer. Okay, I'm going to call it that. Hi, Deb. Good to have you this morning. And we'll wind up with a couple other things I can't put all the stuff in the title, but there we go. All right, number one, Paradise Lost. I've got 4 links. They're all good. Now, some of these links, hey, Cassandra, nice to have you, hon. So some of these links I kind of put in as the week goes on. So So you might get one of these first links, and it will list some of the news, for example, horrible example, but the death count, the toll of how many people have passed away. I think in this first one it says 50 some, but that number has gone up to like over 100 now. And as far as I know, they said that they've only been able to, how would I say that? You know, they take the cadaver dogs and they go through the burn areas, and they've only been able to go through about 3% and already found that many people who unfortunately passed away in those fires. So you might see that it says, and it's not inaccurate, it was just that it was accurate at the time it posted, and so I left it on there and so on. So number 2, Hawaii's devastating fires. Number 3, this nation did a clip on it. And number 4, actually, I think number 4 is the best if you're looking for a time. But number 4 is the most recent one that was placed on there. Now, let me just say about this. There are some things that are very suspicious about this, in my opinion, okay? I am committed not to put out information that most of the general public would consider to be in the conspiratorial classification. I don't like that classification because I don't think that, you know, just because something hasn't come to the forefront doesn't mean it's false. Okay, but it feels suspicious. Something does not feel right in my heart about what's happened. Now, we had some similar things happen in Oregon here a couple of years ago, and there actually came out proof positive, video positive, police officers, eyewitness and stuff that said, hey, Antifa are starting some of these fires. Not all of them, but some of them. Okay, they suppressed that 100%. That was 100%, and I'll go on record as saying I even saw the mugshots of the guys and gals that they eventually arrested for that. Okay, and they still said it wasn't true. So you know, you just have to be smart. I mean, that's it. I know there's a lot of fake news and so on and so on. Anyway, I reserve judgment on this. I'm not so sure. I mean, I know that the hurricane winds blew, and that caused it to be way worse. One of the things that is absent from the reporting right now, in my opinion, is how the fire started. And so that's unusual. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that aspect of it. But I'm going to say what I said in a previous post yesterday, and that is this. Over time, stuff comes out. People always immediately jump to conclusions without really knowing the facts, okay? And then there's other people that deny the facts no matter what. So time will reveal the truth, okay? Time always reveals truth. Jesus, who is Lord of heaven and earth, okay, here's the gospel part, will make sure that happens. He does that, okay? He says there'll come a time when every secret thing that's been hidden. By the way, that sound you're hearing right now, my air conditioner, I'm in my RV. It's way too hot for me not to have it on. I apologize if it gets a little loud. Hopefully you can still hear okay. So there's people that believe everything. There's people that believe nothing, no matter how many facts there are. Let's focus on this issue right now. For the time being, let us focus on people. See, sometimes people get lost in controversy. They get lost in people trying to find the truth or whatever. Remember the devastation. If you haven't watched these videos, you really need to. This is Paradise Lost. That is unbelievable what happened there. We're talking about rows of cars on the street, people having to abandon their vehicles. They're finding the people that actually perished. I don't want to be real graphic, but burned alive. I mean, I saw one police officer or fire chief or someone stand up and says, you know, because the media kept asking question after question, because that's what they do. They like to suck the marrow and suck every detail out because that's their job. Okay, it's not good. I hate it, but it's, yeah. And finally he says, I don't know what else to tell you people, to the media. He says, we are stepping on burnt, charred bodies. We're finding them in cars. So please don't allow yourself, at least in the beginning, and I'm directly talking to you believers, because again, I know we're kind of left brain, right brain, we're kind of either or, we're all the way on one side, all the way on the other. Listen, we want to know truth, right? We always want to know truth. But here's the truth we know 100% for sure right now. There are a lot of people suffering. They need help. They need prayer. Okay, real prayer, like on your knees. I'm going to take 15 minutes and pray for nothing but Hawaii. Come on. So we're real good about saying we do these things and not so good about actually doing them because we believe them, but we don't necessarily believe it enough to move towards action. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying don't forget the human need and tragedy and devastation in this. Okay, the truth will come out. Okay, all right. So 4 videos. If you have time, watch them all, but at the very least watch number 4, the last one. It probably shows the greatest level of what's actually happened. Okay, fire started, not sure how they started. Hurricane force winds, definitely I can't. It made it worse. It made it worse. You know the word, okay? And you know, most of the people had 0 warning, which is very, very unusual because normally when there's a lightning strike or something like that, the forest department, the fire department, they get word of it. They have time to say, hey, a fire started. They start small, right? And yeah, none of that happened. All right. So I'm going to go quick on this next part. Impeachment is on the table. This is, again, people go, I don't really care about that. You know what? I think you should have some concern because it is affecting your country. It is affecting the trajectory, the way that our states, your city, your state, yes, yours, yes, and your country is going. And that affects how you live, that affects what will happen to your kids as you get older. Things can get better or worse. They can get so bad you can't really, honestly, they can't be changed without divine intervention, or they can get better, and it always depends on what people do. So my rule of thumb, hey Isaiah, good morning, congratulations. I'm going to say it. Don't get embarrassed, you guys. Isaiah and Christian had a baby, Emmanuel Thomas Landon. Yeah, we prophesy over that baby that it will be a representation of the Lord Jesus, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, over all the earth. It will represent him all the days of his life in Jesus' name. Glad you guys are healthy. We're praying for him. Amen. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so here's my rule, and I think it's a good rule. I think it's a God rule, okay? You don't have to, love you guys so much. You don't have to agree with my rule, but I'm going to say it anyway, okay? Listen close while you're doing your texts and hearts and all that stuff. If God, the God you believe in, right? 95% of people on the planet believe in a God, in God of some sort. If God is concerned about it, you ought to be also. So be it. I mean, I think that's just, sometimes we get so convoluted in all of our discussions and our dissecting and what about this and what about that. You know, you got to kind of be careful about that. That's what the enemy did. I'm not saying we don't ask questions or delve deep. I don't mean that. I'm the guy that actually does that. Okay? Truth be told, I am the analytical guy. I do it. It drives my wife crazy. Thank you, babe, for putting up with me all these years. But you got to remember, we build those things upon the basics, upon the foundation. And here's the foundation. If God cares about it, I care about it. Period, the end, full stop. Don't care what you say. That's the truth. If he cares about, and to look at Hawaii, and to look at what's going on with the impeachment, the possible impeachment of our president, the president of the United States. I know some of you, he's not my president, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Okay, the guy that's in office. Okay, the possible impeachment and the criminal, the overwhelming. You know, it's really interesting to me. I watch some of these news programs on the right and on the left, and I hate labels, but so be it. And it's like, no matter how many, here it is on paper, and here it is on video, and here it is. All you have to do is get up and deny it. I mean, that's the father of lies, right? You just get up and say, well, there's no evidence. There's a mountain of evidence. Well, there's no evidence. And you know, the sad truth is many, many people will believe that. See, I'm not a theory person. I'm a fact person. I want to know the facts. And just because you say there's no facts, I don't believe that. What I believe is the receipt, the piece of paper, the testimony of the person, you know, and so on and so on. So there are tons and tons of people that are saying, we have proof, here's the smoking gun. I'm not going to take a lot of time in this. Number one is fraud that's been uncovered. Again, it really doesn't matter for some people how much evidence there is. They're just going to go with whatever their favorite political pundit or media representation says, and they'll just go with that because they say with great conviction and so on and so on. You got to be smart. You got to learn to look at the receipts. So number two, there's a guy named Eric Schwerin who basically, for all intents and purposes, is the guy that controlled a lot of the money through the Biden family. I don't feel led to go into that any more than that, but you can look it up, and it is a big concern. It is very important, and I do believe, you know, here, and again, I do talk to Christians a lot because most of my audience is Christian, all right? So I'm trying to get you without being, you know, because I can get all hardcore and I can get on my soapbox and start, you know, veins popping out of my neck and all. I don't want to do that. I want to reason with you. Come, let us reason together, Jesus said in the book of Isaiah. But yeah, we need to understand what truly is. What is the truth, okay? What is actually happening, and what is my response supposed to be to that? All right, so make sure you know the facts, okay? And listen with your spirit and with your heart. All right, so this guy, what did I say his name was? Sorry, I lost track. Eric Schwerin, guy that basically controlled the money, and then David Weiss, another guy, and then that's number three. Number four, and I am going fast through these because I need to get to some stuff. Ted Cruz, who is a senator from Texas. I very much, I think he's a senator, not a congressman. Yeah, he's a senator. You know, a lot of these guys have varying motives. I understand that. You know, every human being has motives. You know, there's no way to get away from that, but you can check them and think about them and so on and so on. What can I say about this? He basically makes the statement that that the Biden family will go down in history, maybe not in the courtroom, maybe not in the jail cell, but they will go down in history as being guilty, because I believe with all of my heart they are. And whether they'll get away with it or not, that's the real question. So all I'm going to say about that, watch those, look at those. Now, for those of you who watch the program all the time, you know that I have basically three things. I have links that are videos. I have links that are where you could just read them. Some are a combination of both of those. And then some of them are just like quick pictures with a title. I do my best to try to make sure that they're accurate. So I don't always get it right, but I do my best. All right. The border influx. And this is an ongoing issue. Make sure you do not fall into the category of what the industry, the media industry calls, are you ready now? Info, short for information, infotainment. Info/tainment. Not entertainment, but infotainment. It's a phrase, I don't know if they still use it much anymore, but it's the idea that we're not just giving information, we're trying to give information that simultaneously informs but entertains. Okay, so the media idea is that if it bleeds, okay, in other words, if it's violent and it's bloody, and you know, violence and sex are the two main things. Okay, this is well known in media. So if it bleeds, it leads. In other words, it's the leading story. So what am I saying to you about? Don't forget that. Don't forget. I don't go out looking for certain things. They come looking for me. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But don't fall into the category where you're just being entertained. Okay? You're, as some people call it, doom scrolling, where you're just, you know, this can get a hold of you. It's a real thing. Okay? So, enough said about that. So the border influx, what's happening at the border, is a serious, I'm going to say it this way, crime against humanity being done or accomplished through our own system, our own governance system right now. In the first 10 days of this month alone, I think they said 40,000, yes, 40,000 people have come across the border. Now, this is not an issue of compassion. It's an issue of safety. we have lost hundreds of thousands of our sons and daughters to the fentanyl that has come across the border. This is not a political talking point. This is a reality. I lost my own nephew to this. And sometimes things have to touch us individually. You know, maybe your city isn't seeing this influx. Maybe your situation, it's just something you watch on the news and you move on. Well, what I'm about to show you is evidence of this principle that when it touches you, suddenly you become concerned about it. So what I'm calling you to do is to be better than that. Be concerned about it because the Lord that you love and serve is concerned. So number one, under this section, border influx, and I call it crime, you know, the phrase crime and punishment. I think there's a TV show, Crime and Punishment. I don't know. I don't watch this. Under the title crime, I put in parentheses crime and no punishment. What happens when there is crime but no punishment? Well, it's not rocket science, okay? Probably get tired of hearing me say that phrase, but it's kindergarten stuff. When crime goes without punishment, crime increases. Period, the end, full stop. That's what happens every time. You don't have to be an Einstein to figure that out. So it so freaks me out how this is a form of mental instability when you think that doesn't apply. When you know, the law of gravity, Isaac Newton, what goes up must come down, bonk in the head with an apple. Oh, that doesn't apply anymore. No, it still does. You may figure out a way around that. Go to the moon where gravity, you know, is different. You get what I'm saying? So, what's happening now, the Mayor Adams component of this, and I'm not the guy that wants to demonize people, although I do believe their people can be demonized, but I'm not out to just try to bash him. Okay, a lot of people on the right are doing that. I'm not trying to, like, well, I'm better than you are. That's not. God is my witness. Very simply, I don't think Jesus would do that. There are a lot of these guys that feel like they have to do that. I'm just saying. So I'm saying this, I'm not trying to attack this man, but I'm saying what he is doing right now. The mayor of New York City, Mayor Adams, is standing up and saying what I've been telling you all along, okay? And what is that? That when it touches you, then you get concerned. You can postulate all the theories in the world, but until it touches you, it's walk a mile in my shoes. So what's happened? Okay, I believe this is I don't know if it's Manhattan or New York City, I don't know. Anyway, crime is exploding. Some of this has to do, a lot of it has to do with a massive influx of illegal migrants who have come across the border. A lot of it. One, I think they're mentioning, and one of these guys is Lady Gaga's dad. I'll talk about that in a minute. Just one of these motels, a lot of motels. I don't know how many, I don't have my number in front of me. A lot of these motels were basically, the city stepped in and said, hey, we'll pay the rate for the motel so you don't lose any money. We need a place to house these migrants. Which somebody with a brain in their head said was going to happen. Hey, you let this happen, you let this go on, regardless of why you're letting it go on, you let it go on, it's going to cause trouble. These people are going to wind up going to a city somewhere, and it's going to overwhelm them. Well, now the mayor of a quote-unquote, air quotes, sanctuary city, a lot of these guys got on the bandwagon. They're like, oh yeah, we're a sanctuary city, come to us, we love you so much. Those other guys, you know, that are on the right or Republicans, they don't love you, they don't care about you, they're racist, they're homophobic, they're this. That's all the, you know, that's what the enemy does. Calls you names, okay? Let's not talk about intelligentsia. Let's not talk about right and wrong. Let's not talk about good and bad. Let's not talk about problems. Let's just say, this is the political, or this is the social, or this is the moral high ground I've seized, and you're a doofus if you don't believe it. Okay, so this is what they do. They label, they call names, and both sides does this, but I truly believe the left does it a lot worse. So, they come in, one hotel alone, like 500 migrants, and the whole area around it is becoming a hotbed of criminal activity, which wouldn't be entirely bad if we had people that were, you know, abutting hindering, trying to stop illegal activity. But this is the other issue. All these things dovetail together. Let's defund our police departments. Okay? Oops, what happens? There's no one to answer. Or the city council says, we don't want you to go down there and stop crime. And I know you think that sounds crazy, but there are literally cities in my home state of Oregon, Washington, California, New York, that have done this. All right. So Mayor Adams is coming up now in front of everyone with great conviction and almost like, I always knew this would happen. Here's the guy that called to have a sanctuary city, and now he has that in you know, multiplied, you know, in spades, and now he's crying foul. It's really hard to feel sorry sometimes when you're like, I and other people said 2 years ago, you let this happen, this is what will happen. And then the guy stands up and goes, President, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Well, the president never was doing what he was supposed to do, but you agreed with him back then because you were more concerned about pleasing the public and looking good in front of the cameras and making sure you got voted in a second time, that you checked your intelligence out in order to be with the in crowd. Now, that's just true. And now you're suffering because of it, and you want to blame the president. You want to blame... He comes right out and he says, our border system is broken. I know, I feel bad, and yet in a way it's like, oh my gosh, you know, how can you be so... All right, so second one, Lady Gaga's dad chimes in. I want to read you part of what he said. So Lady Gaga, you all know her. She wears meat for clothing, and all of our kids love her, which is your fault, Mr. Parent. Sorry, but it is. Lady Gaga's dad told the New York Post this week that migrants, and we're talking about those who have illegally come over the border, and by the way, you're going to read all kinds of numbers. Let me just tell you, if you want to know what really is, it's in the millions now. They won't, no one will say that, but it really is. We've had a few, at least, I believe, 2 million people come over our border in the last 2 years that simply do not belong here. Okay, and that's, I know, racist, xenophobic, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's all we need to do. Just throw a name at somebody. Just call somebody a name, and that makes you right. No, it doesn't make you right. It makes you foolish. Okay, anyway. Lady Gaga, we have to come back to common sense. We just absolutely have to. So Lady Gaga's dad told the Post that migrants have taken over the Upper West Side neighborhood that he lives in and caused what he called mayhem. And he's right. I'm sure he's right. I'm sure he's understating the way it is. The city's response to the crisis he calls a joke. He said it's a joke. In other words, what do you do when you are part and parcel to a problem that you actually helped create, and then the problem blows up in your face, and then you get in front of the cameras and tell everybody how wrong everyone else is, but God forbid to say I was wrong. Well, is there anybody out there who's willing to say I was wrong? Okay. Wow. Like, no, we can't do that. Anyway, what are you supposed to do then? Do they want to come in and rescue the problem they created? Probably not. Germanata is, I think, his last name, bemoaned the late night noise from loud music and motorbikes, noting that it begins at around 10 p.m. and continues through 4 a.m. Somebody else said these guys are pretty much locked in their home all day long, and then they want to party all night long. He added that the streets are filled with trash. What a shock. Children are catcalled. So you've got people standing outside making sexual, you know what a catcall is, towards kids, okay? And residents are verbally abused. No big surprise. Now, this is not a video. This is a reader. You should take the time. Number 3, New York City Mayor Adams and others now, this shows a collage, are finally admitting there's a problem. Can I just say this real quick? Wouldn't it be great if we had enough foresight to see the problem before and not mock and ridicule those who have enough common sense and accuse them of merely just being political? Wouldn't it be great if we had enough, decency and being ethical to say, hey, if we do this, that's going to make a problem. Instead of throwing that out, letting the problem happen like everybody who had a brain said it was going to happen, and then try to cover up the fact that you helped create that. We have to return. You know, typically, now here's a biblical example. Some of you won't like this. It's okay. The biblical example is the prophets. Now, God is the ultimate foreseer, right? I mean, he's not just a super intelligent guy. You know, we've got these guys out there that are really smart. I don't think I'm one of them, but I like listening to them, who go, hey, this is really... Now, God is the ultimate smart guy. He sees it coming. So what does he do? This is wonderful. Think about this. He raises up a Daniel, a Jeremiah, an Isaiah, and an Ezekiel, you know, a John the Baptist, whatever, of someone, and he calls them a prophet. That means they actually are a prophet. Okay? I remember Isaiah. I keep talking about Isaiah because he at least was watching. I don't know if he still are, Isaiah. But Isaiah is the guy who saw the Lord in church. He was in the temple. He saw the Lord. And the Lord asked this question, almost like Isaiah's not in the room. He says, who will go for us? He's talking to the Godhead, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Thank you. And he goes, who will go for us? And Isaiah like raises his hand and goes, I'll do it. I mean, you would do too. If Jesus came into your bedroom and looked around and goes, yeah, I need someone to go preach the gospel for me. Is there anybody out there? You know, you would, of course you would, you know. But then when he realizes what God is asking him to do, which is tell people that if they don't change, this will happen. Are you listening to me? If you don't change your direction and the way you're thinking about things, really bad things will happen to you. First of all, nobody likes to be that person. Okay? If a person wants to be that person, okay, then usually you don't want to listen to them. It is the ones that don't want to be that person that, you know, are kind of qualified in a way. And you know what they do to those people? Do you want to know why nobody wanted to be an Old Testament prophet that actually was one? Because they kill him. Jesus himself said this. He said, Jim, you're virtuous. No, because I don't consider myself a prophet at all. But I do want to tell the truth, okay? Jesus said, you killed your fathers, killed the prophets, and now you want to kill me. Why? Jesus said, if I had not come and shown them their sin, in other words, their wrongdoing, the wrong path you're on, okay, they would not have hated me. We don't want to be told that we're being foolish and that where our decisions are dangerous. These guys, and I'm not saying I told you so, you're so stupid. I'm not doing that. Sometimes I want to, I'm trying to be honest. But this mayor, as well as a number of others, are now admitting, but they're not admitting with a level of humility, really. They're saying it's Trump's fault, it's the right's fault, it's everybody's fault but mine. Okay? All right. I think I made my point. So number 4 and then number 5, the same thing. I actually think they're all good to watch. Let it sink in. Now, on the flip side to that, this is really interesting. Any of you who have been watching what's happening right now in the presidential election, there's this guy named Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And yes, he is I think the grandson of the RFK that was assassinated. All right. He is a Democrat. One of my biggest prayers is that common sense will return. You see, what happens is these parties are so divided. They, what I call, seize moral high ground. So they look for an issue to claim as their own. We're going to claim, and this, Christians are dumb enough to fall into this. Well, it's a political issue. Actually, it's not a political. Abortion is a moral issue, but you get, you know, one side will go, we're gonna claim the anti-abortion side of this, and that's going to be our moral high ground. And then the other side goes, we're going to claim the pro-abortion, and that's going to be our moral high. And they shifted away from what is right and what is good. You know, is it good to murder our kids? No. Is it good to butcher them in the womb? Sorry for my frank language. No, it never will be okay, and you'll stand before God one day and find out if you don't come to reason now. Okay, I know there's all kinds of nuances to it, but that's the plain and simple truth. So what happens is they seize these high grounds, And the more they do that, I'm going somewhere with this, the more they do that, the better or worse it becomes. So the Democratic Party, okay, and I'm not, God, I want to say this, there's a lot of bad history in that party. There's some really bad history in the Republican Party too. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. But this guy, RFK, is a Democrat. But he is kind of JFK, RFK, old school. He's like, no, this is crazy. This is crazy talk. You guys have thrown out God. You have checked your brains out when it comes to the backs. Okay? You have just embraced consistently every evil thing that comes, and I'm done with it. That's it. Okay? Now, let me just say this about RFK. I'm not promoting him or whatever. I'm just saying he's not saying everything. Okay? I'm sure he's got some flaws, but he's holding back on some of the stuff. He doesn't hold back on much. Anyway, the point of all this is, again, the border thing. Let me just read what he says, and then I'll move on. He made this statement. He put it out on Twitter, which is now X, by the way. I'm not sure I like that. Okay? But nevertheless, I'll weigh in when I feel compelled to do that. But Twitter, the blue bird is gone. It's not, you're not tweeting anymore. You're, I guess, Xing. Yeah. Anyway, he states this on one of his comments. It would have been, you know, a tweet, Twitter, whatever. The reason, he says, for strong border control is not xenophobia. Now, it's just refreshing to hear someone tell the truth on that side of the aisle. Okay? Pray for this man. Okay? The reason for strong border control is not xenophobia. In other words, you see, this is, can I just say this real quick? It's another thing we do. Okay? If you believe that sexual perversion is wrong, you're a whatever phobia. Okay? If you are, if you don't believe all of the rhetoric, even just maybe I some, but not all of it, you're a climate phobia. You're a this phobia. You're that. Okay, you see what I'm saying? This is a what am I saying? A strategy. I was going to say something different. A strategy of really the evil one, and that's label this person with a bad label. You know, so on your phobia. Your phobia. I'm not afraid of, you know, people from other countries. I'm not. Okay, and neither am I a bigot. Okay, or hateful. But that's what you do. You just call them names. You call them phobia, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you know what? You tell a lie often enough. And there are people that have a phobia of certain things. But truly, scientifically, if you want to say it that way, I would say probably 90% of them, it's not a genuine phobia. Like, I'm afraid of spiders, or I'm afraid. No. To be a classic, technical, scientific phobia is way different than just calling somebody. All right. So, xenophobia, it's not that. The reason for strong border control, says RFK Jr., who's running for president on the Democratic side, the reason for strong border control is humanitarian conscience. It's amazing to me that we open the border and let everybody come in, and then we walk down the street, the alphabet media, and we film all these poor people who are suffering. Well, of course they're suffering, you idiot. You created their... I'm sorry. All right. He goes on to say, Democrats and Republicans should agree that the humanitarian nightmare, what Mayor Adams is talking, and that's just one city, okay? It's coming to a city near you. These things will disperse eventually. That will happen. Says Democrats and Republicans agree, or should agree, that this humanitarian nightmare has resulted from essentially handling immigration policy, okay, this is, hey Tam, this is gonna, you need to see this. Again, it's not politics, it's just the truth. It is the truth. Whether this politician says it is, doesn't make it the truth. Whether this politician says it isn't the truth, doesn't make it not the truth. The truth is the truth, whether you believe it, whether you confess it, it is. Now here's the facts. And facts, President John Adams said this, facts are stubborn things. The facts are, and he states it, and it's true, he says, we have essentially handed our immigration policy over to the drug cartels. We need to take back control. Ruthless criminal cartels have woven, and I highlighted this so you could see it, woven together drugs, immigration, and human trafficking. And I'll add the word sex trafficking because that's the biggest part of human trafficking. They've woven those three things together, drugs, immigration, and human trafficking, to make a multi-billion-dollar business. And the Biden administration policies have greatly exacerbated the situation. That's that word I was looking for earlier. The border is out of control. 40,000 in the last 10 days. Let that grasp you. Okay, 40,000, I believe it is, in the last 10 days. I think that was the number. Hope that was right. Our immigration is being administered by the cartels. This is truth. Okay. Now, what would cause any administration, the people who are governing your children's life, what would cause them to do? An idea? Okay, well, I'm gonna go conspiracy here, because it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. It is a conspiracy fact. I'd sure like to hear some people say that once in a while. It's a conspiracy fact. There have been people that have conspired for this, and now how do I know that? Because they are saying so. Okay, there are people that have gotten in rooms alone for decades and said, how do we run the world? Okay, this has gone all the way back historically in the Bible. Nimrod did it, Tower of Babel, so on. Okay, Alexander the Great did it. You know, who was the Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar? These are historic facts. These are not fairy tales. These are not some kind of fairy tale Disneyland Bible story. These are real things that happened. Hitler, oh my gosh, have we forgotten? People have always wanted to do this. There are those who believe the only way to save the world, are you listening closely, is for a small, highly educated, empowered by a great deal of money, trillions of collective money, to rule the world. They have been working on plans. Now, here's where it's going to, some of you are just going to check out and say it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's a conspiracy fact, okay? Why do I know that? Because the guys are finally saying it. They know because of the information age, they cannot hide this anymore. So it's time for them to come out and say it, okay? And they are saying it. The only way we can do this is the collapse of individual sovereign nations and states. Okay, we have to create a crisis, and then we have to solve. We have the answer. The Bible spells this out specifically. The world will come to a place of insurmountable crisis, and then the man of sin, we call him the Antichrist, the Bible calls him the man of sin, and so on, will step up and say, I have the answer. And it will be global governance. It will be global finances, a one world currency, okay, which is about to happen. And it will be global religion. We're not hearing much about that now, but that will be, I believe, the last thing in that chain. So, don't be shocked when it's playing out in front of you. Be smart. Don't just go along with the crowd. I love watching The Chosen. Okay, one of the things they do is they got on their T-shirts, and in the beginning of the show, they have this gigantic pool of fish. They're all one color. And then every so often, one fish will turn around and go the opposite way. Do you realize the masses have almost never been right? What is it about human beings that just want to be with the in crowd? Do you recognize that in yourself? Let's make this about you. Do you recognize that in yourself? Oh, I don't have that. Oh, no. Then why is it that when you're faced with threats, you get fearful? Okay. All right. Holy Spirit, I'll move on. I'm almost out of time. I'm almost always out of time. All right. There are a number of these things. I do want to get to this one issue because I want to make myself very clear on this one issue. I put a link in here I never thought I'd put in. I wrestled with the Lord over this. I really did. And I don't want to blame God. Okay. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Debbie. You're welcome. I talked to a man yesterday, a good friend of mine, and we discussed some of these things. Anyway, Number one, this is not the one, but I want to mention it so I don't forget. Kevin Sorbo put a post and come out. Now, I don't know all the accuracy of this, but I know Kevin Sorbo, former actor, you'll recognize his face. This is a Twitter one, has been super accurate. So I trust that. Usually people come out and they say they exacerbate, they say a lot of things that aren't true. They attach a lot of things. But apparently California has passed a law, and they are seeking to do this. There are people in the legislative branches of most of our states, or a number of the states, especially left-leaning states, who are diligently trying to get sexual immorality a non-issue. Anybody can do anything as long as it's consensual. So look at that one. I'm going to stop right there on that. Number two, I put a big triangle or yellow sign with an exclamation point. Never put that on before. Warning, graphic, all in for hell and the devil. This is the woman that I showed you the picture. Her name, it's the first time I've ever heard of her. Her stage name is oh gosh, what was her name? Baby Storme, with an E, S-T-O-R-M-E, Baby Storme. Beautiful young black woman, rapper, I am assuming. Again, I want to pray for her. I want to ask you to pray that the Lord will reveal. She put out a video. Do not watch this video unless you understand. It's borderline nudity. I don't know how else to say it. I am not that person. I don't go looking for these. Sometimes they come across my path. I'm quick to block them. I'm quick to delete them. But for some reason, this one really grabbed a hold of my spirit. And she is doing what a lot of entertainment. You see, it used to be in the entertainment industry, and I have personal history in this. I don't have permission, so I won't go into it. But someone in my family moving into the industry was told by an executive, a higher up, if you don't get into the occult, you won't make it in this industry. That's all I'm going to say. But we've watched this through the years get worse and worse and worse, to where now there is open Satan worship. Whether they actually believe in a devil that they're worshiping, or they're just putting on a show, it really doesn't matter, because this is satanic worship. It is. Okay? And so this beautiful, she basically has like body paint on. Okay? So some of you watched the movie, not the Avengers. What's the movie where the mutants? I forget what that movie's called. They have the one lady in there who's all blue, and basically she's in body paint. So it's like that. And again, I would not listen to the words in this one. I wouldn't. They're very offensive. But you can get it by looking at what she's doing. She's basically, all through the video, embracing hell. Embracing the vomit of hell. And now here's why I think this is important. I know that you guys already know this stuff is out there. That's not it. I want you to think, this is the thing that the Holy Spirit kept hammering me about, and I hope I'm right about this. The kids, our kids, these guys get popular mostly with the younger crowd. One of the ways the enemy gets into the hearts and minds and lives of your kid, listen to me, is not by saying, worship me, but by saying, it's all a big joke. Now, the way she words her song, she's not joking. She said, I'd rather have this, I'd rather do this and be famous than not. It's unbelievable. It always shocks me. But to the kids, it's like, haha, it's just a joke. There is no, in other words, one of the enemy's strategy is to make people believe it's all just make-believe. Wow, I keep getting this flash of white light. I don't know if you guys can see that on the program, but about 6 times now, I've had this flash of white light come across. It's really kind of freaking me out here. All right, so I know a lot of you are going to want to skip it. It's totally fine. Please don't judge me on this. We need to pray for our kids. There will be a concert at some level. There may already be, I don't know much about this woman. There will be a concert, and that concert will be filled with teens and preteens. That's a big deal to God. Okay? All right. That's all I'm going to say about that. I may have to even take it down eventually, but trying to do my best to be obedient. So talking about these issues, again, this one probably should have went back in the New York City thing, but these flash mobs, you've been seeing this, these flash mobs are now coming. This is only going to get worse until the cities and the corporations step up and say, we're not going to do this anymore. You see, litigation in the world has become a demonic, overarching thing. So what's happening? Nordstrom. So Nordstrom comes on and tells its employees, hey, the police are not going to arrest these guys and do anything anyway. We don't want your life in danger. We'd rather have the insurance companies handle this. Do not stop people when they come in and steal. Stupid, 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 stupid. And oh, in case I didn't say clearly enough, stupid. Okay? It is so ridiculous. It is easy to see what will happen. Okay, here again, it's kind of like a form of insanity. It really is. It's not hard to go, oh, I can tell you what will happen because this will happen, then after that, this will happen, and so on and so on and so on. So now, what used to be one or two individuals going in, grabbing stuff, knowing that this particular corporate store is not going to stop them, now it's turned into huge mobs. It will not slow down or stop until the corporation says, no, we'll fight them in court on this. You know, the insurance companies eventually just bail on them. Do you wonder why there are hundreds, yea, thousands of big box different stores, I could name them to you, that are pulling out of places? And it's not just them. It's that policy that says the insurance will take care of it. All right. Number 4. A Target employee, there's a group of women who come in. I think they're women. Who knows? They come in. And they're like doing a zombie dance. And it's the vile filth of hell. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to, tell us what you really mean. It is the vile filth of hell. It always has been. Now it's just more acceptable. Wow, this white light keeps going. Is anybody seeing this white light? It is crazy. My whole screen is lighting up. Anyway, so of course, because the majority of them are women of color, the guy who calls the cops because they're basically, you know, impeding people, you know, they're a safety issue, but whatever, okay? They call them, and now so they're racist because they call the cops. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting. Watch that one. Number 5, I got to hurry here. Number 5 in this department. Okay, CBN. This is a must-watch one, in my opinion. Christian Broadcast Network talks about federal agencies that are arming themselves and the millions of rounds of ammunition they purchased, the guns they purchased. You probably heard recently where they were trying to pass 18,000 new IRS agents armed, okay? Why is this happening? It's happening because the government is fearful. It's happening because so many Americans they're seeing the stupid, they're seeing the crazy, and they're going out and they're saying, we don't have confidence that the government will protect us in a crisis. You know, we had recently here, the FBI broke the door down of a 70-some-year-old veteran who made, in all fairness, very, very stupid, foolish remarks on the internet saying that he was going to off the president who was coming to his hometown. Okay, he was bluster. But they're not playing games with this, and this is happening more and more. FBI has become politicized. They break in the door of Catholic, anti-abortion protesters who haven't done anything other than just say it's wrong and stand on the street. It's getting bad, and so people are doing this. So we're talking about NASA. Would it surprise you to know that NASA has armed forces? They have their own SWAT team. The Social Security Department. All right, you got to watch that. It's crazy, okay? So, here's another crazy. Number 6. A woman, you see, here's the thing. I get sometimes that some people approach these issues with a modicum of sensibility. Others go off their bonnet. Here's one, just as an example. A woman refuses to kill, listen, the head lice. Yes, head lice. You know, your kids go to school, they get head lice. Refuses to kill the head lice on her child because she's vegan and doesn't want to kill a living thing. Yeah, I put, you savages, don't kill the head lice. This is a mental disorder, okay? You need to see a shrink. Okay, I'm just saying. Number 7, another crazy. This is a little more serious. A young, I think like teenage girl, I think maybe 17 years old, if I remember correctly. No, 16. It says right here, 16-year-old autistic girl. Okay, we give a little bit of leeway for people with autism because sometimes, you know, they're not completely, they might say things or do things. So, I don't know the full story, you'll have to read it, but what I could figure out, you'll see a picture of a woman police officer who is, I believe, a lesbian. Okay, LGBT, I don't care what you want to call her, but she's standing there with her arms folded. She's very offended. She was responsible for causing 12 of her fellow officers to come arrest this autistic girl, and here's why. In the course of some kind of a counseling session or something where the police officer was there, she made the off comment, remember she's young and she's autistic, that the policewoman resembled her aunt who was a lesbian. Okay? Wasn't attacking her, wasn't even demeaning her. Okay? And as far as I can tell, and this, you talk about the hatred. So the girl got arrested for hate speech, but you want to know where the hatred was? It was with that female police officer who got offended at a 16-year-old autistic girl who was comparing the way she looked to her aunt that she probably loves and adores. More crazy. All right. Number 8 talks about the number of suicides that have happened in this last year, about 50,000, and someone's saying, something is wrong. Yeah, I just have to skip that. I don't have time. Read the comments on it. Look at that. Number 9, another athlete dies. This time a 17-year-old high school athlete dies. Heart failure, boom. Now, there was a point that I was willing to think that this was perhaps coincidental. It was a very short amount of time. Come on. Don't just check your brains out. People are now starting to say, hey, this is coming into the hundreds, specifically of athletes who put stress on their hearts that are dying, that are just falling over dead. No back history of heart problems, okay? But the ones with, yeah. Let me just say this, there's a reason. They all have one thing in common. Well, 99% of them have one thing in common. Don't be fooled. Yeah. Number 10. You want to look at this. This is a very short 2 or 3 30-second clip. This is from Boston Dynamics, the leader in robotics. Robots are coming. This is not your daddy's, Terminator show. They are almost to the place where they're going to start putting them in homes. I guarantee you this is going to happen. Watch this 30-second video where somebody's just taking a video of a room in Boston Dynamics, one of the leaders in robotics, and just look at the individuals. It's like a freak show. All right, I want to say one thing before I leave, and that is actually 2 things, good news. 60,000 kids gathered in an Oklahoma stadium to worship the Lord, college-age kids. This is great news. You see, at the same time, the enemy is upping his ante, the forces of darkness. God is doing his thing. Don't ever lose sight of that. You should watch that. CBN, wonderful thing. Also, it shows a very, again, 1-minute like clip of the first passengers to take like a tourist space flight. It's wonderful. I actually wish I had time to talk more about that. John Stossel, most of you know him, is a pretty conservative guy. Definitely not, super left-leaning or super right-leaning. He talks about climate change. You must watch that. Anyway, I'm out of time. Look at the last few posts. They're worth your time. They tell a story about this global thing that's happening. So, love you guys. God bless you. Don't forget to share and give yourself permission to have a great day.